The humid Malaysian air clung to the Eastern and Oriental Express like a spectral embrace as it sliced through emerald jungles. The rhythmic hum of the train lulled most passengers into a tranquil stupor, a stark contrast to the disquiet brewing in the opulent confines of the presidential suite. Mr. Goh, the general manager, a man typically unflappable, felt a cold sweat bloom on his brow. The discovery of a lifeless body, Mr. Lim, a renowned art collector, shattered the train's serenity like a stone tossed into a still pond. The missing Raffles watch confirmed this wasn't a mere case of restless sleep, it was a macabre tableau with a hefty price tag attached. The engineer, a wiry fellow named Paul, produced grainy security footage, a flickering black and white ballet of a hooded figure entering and exiting Mr. Lim's suite. The culprit, cloaked in shadow, remained frustratingly anonymous. However, a certain gait, a subtle sway in the figure's movements, flickered on the screen. A curious fluidity, Goh mused. Not the lumbering gait of a large man, but a hint of something lighter, perhaps even delicate. The way the figure moved, even beneath the bulky anonymity of the hood, suggested a certain grace. This detail, Goh reasoned, could be the thread needed to unravel the mystery. He assembled his unlikely retinue of suspects. Arthur Paddington, a flamboyant British aristocrat whose bespoke suits whispered of wealth and his pronouncements of cryptic pronouncements. His aquiline features and aristocratic bearing seemed at odds with violent tendencies. Madame Kelly, an enigmatic Irish socialite with eyes that could pierce a man's soul. Her past was shrouded in as much mystery as the Malaysian jungle, and her motives for this extravagant train journey remained a cipher. Michael Kruger, a stoic South African businessman with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. His steely gaze and calculating demeanor hinted at a man who wouldn't hesitate to eliminate obstacles. Stanley, the butler, exemplary manners and unwavering loyalty, were his calling cards. However, a flicker of something akin to covetousness in his eyes when the missing watch was mentioned left a disquieting aftertaste in Goh's mouth. Rachel, the engineer's wife, a quiet woman, who preferred the company of a good book to boisterous conversations. Her knowledge of the train's layout, gleaned from years of accompanying her husband, could prove advantageous, or so it seemed. The interrogations. Arthur Paddington.
Good heavens, Mr. Goh, what's all this about? Murder, on my jolly good train ride? Preposterous. Besides, I was indulging in a particularly stimulating conversation with Mr. Kruger about the symbolism of orchids in Malay folklore while sharing a bottle of vintage cognac when the whole kerfuffle began. Couldn't have been me, old boy.
Madame Kelly.
Mr. Goh, violence is such a crude solution, wouldn't you agree? Besides, my interests lie in the cultural artifacts of a bygone era, not baubles like a watch. My alibi. Absorbed in my social media in my own cabin, completely oblivious to the drama unfolding in the presidential suite.
Michael Kruger.
Time is money, Mr. Goh. I wouldn't waste a single precious minute on such a barbaric act. My alibi. Negotiating a lucrative trade deal over a glass of the finest cognac with Mr. Paddington in the bar car. Ask the bartender and Mr. Paddington, they'll confirm my presence.
Stanley?
Mr. Lim, he was a kind man. I would never. I delivered his lunch at the usual time, but there was no answer. Worried, I alerted Mr. Goh immediately. As for the watch, such a magnificent piece, a terrible loss.
Rachel?
I was waiting for Paul to finish work in our cabin, she finished, her voice barely a whisper. I never left the cabin, I was just reading a novel. I've always accompanied Paul on his work with this train. I don't have any reasons to hurt anyone. I seldom talk to other passengers.
The general manager felt a cold dread pool in his stomach, a murky weight that threatened to drag him under. The testimonies of the passengers unfolded like a train chugging through a dense fog, each account offering a glimpse, but never the full picture. One statement, however, snagged on his ear like a loose thread, a discordant note in the symphony of alibis. But doubt, a serpent with eyes of polished obsidian, coiled around his heart. What if he was wrong? The Eastern and Oriental Express, a jewel in the crown of his company, prided itself on its impeccable reputation. Accusing the wrong passenger could shatter the train's mystique like a dropped crystal goblet, scattering its glittering fragments across the pristine white tablecloth. He was caught in a precarious dance. A misstep could topple the precarious balance between justice and catastrophe. Every decision, he realized with a jolt, felt like a gamble on a roulette wheel spinning with the future of the Orient Express. Who do you think whose statement had a contradiction? Who was the killer and the robber? Who done it?